Hello everyone and welcome back to Newegg TV. I'm Steve. Today joining me in the studio I have my friend here Chris from Metageek. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, Steve. It's great to be here.
Excellent. Well, thank you again. And I know you guys do a lot of stuff with wireless technology. So just for the audience, what is Metageek known for?
Metageek is really known for wireless tools and also education. So we try to make sure that people who need a lot of have wireless interference in their office, or in any environment, can get it solved. All
right, so Metageek clearly make tons of wireless products. I mean, we've already talked about one prior, the Insider, right? And that is actually something you guys can watch. We've already filmed it. Just click in the description below for that link and learn more about that. Aside from that, though, you guys make a lot of products, and we just want to let everybody know, wireless in general, it's kind of tough, right? When you're trying to troubleshoot or just get it set up. I mean, when it works great. It's the times that it doesn't work, Metageek wants to step in and try and help us out, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. For a lot of guys, who are dealing, or a lot of people who are dealing with wireless in their office, it's a kind of a new thing where it's suddenly become mission critical. You have plenty of people who want to use wireless devices, all day. And when the Wi-Fi sucks, and the Wi-Fi sucks in the office, no one looks worse than the guy who set it up. He didn't really know that much about Wi-Fi, or he knew a lot, but he needed a little bit of help with interfering devices.
Right, because you don't really ever know what's interfering. You just know it's not working, and you just got to go through some series of troubleshooting steps, remove things from the system, right? Try one AP or one router at a time until you figure it out. Absolutely, there's a lot of problems.
Because it's all invisible, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's all behind the veil. So it's invisible stuff is hard to troubleshoot.
That is without something like this. So what do we have here? We've got three different things.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have three different products here. Two are spectrum analyzers, and one of them is an additional antenna. So we'll start with the 2.4X. Okay. This guy here in the middle. He's our spectrum analyzer, detachable antenna. It does the full 2.4 gigahertz band, the ISM band, and basically it's our normal spectrum analyzer, and it works with Chanalyzer or Insider depending on what you need, but it works with Chanalyzer to show you what's going on in the air.
And essentially, as opposed to maybe a USB dongle you use for your Wi-Fi, this is really checking on all RF in that band.
Absolutely. If there's energy in the band, we'll find it. It's anywhere across the band. It doesn't have to be Wi-Fi to interfere with Wi-Fi.
Excellent. Okay. Well, I think go ahead.
No, yeah. So the next is the DBX. DBX is our dual band spectrum analyzer. It does all of the same things that the 2.4X does, but in addition to that, it'll do the full 5 gigahertz band. It'll do the same kind of stuff.
Right.
It'll
all the same analyzing of RF signal and any kind of interference that could be happening in that band.
Absolutely.
And in fact, 2.4 and 5. So that would be the difference between the 2.4 and the DBX. I mean, essentially, you guys do the 2.4 because that's the majority of stuff is on that right now still.
Yeah, and that's where we have the biggest problem, right? I mean, we have this crisis of the commons where phones and baby monitors and Wi-Fi and everything is in 2.4 now because it's a really good band, for especially for home users, who are trying to penetrate through a couple of walls, go up and down a couple of floors. It's very useful to have something that covers a whole house with a single access point. And 2.4 gigahertz access points can do that, in a lot of circumstances. So, and not with just Wi-Fi, but also like all the devices we mentioned already, video cameras, everything. So 2.4 gigahertz is probably where the most help is needed. It's the part where we have the most troubleshooting to do. But 5 gigahertz is getting to be busier every day. More and more Wi-Fi is moving up there, along with video. And so I just picked up. My dad just picked up a Wi-Fi. HDMI video,
oh, okay, like a WiDi or something like that.
And so then that works over 5 gigahertz. So I mean, more and more devices are using both bands as they need to get the job done.
And I know we were discussing before, which we will get into a little bit more with Chanalyzer Pro, but essentially the 2.4 gigahertz band, just by the inception and the creation of that standard, my understanding is that the channels themselves, there's a lot of overlap. Right?
Yeah.
So that's where you end up with a lot more problems versus the 5 gigahertz, although there's less channels, they're wider channels, so therefore there's no overlap.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, when you're using the standard 20 megahertz, 20 megahertz band, in 2.4 gigahertz, you have 1, 6, and 11 are the channels that are most widely used because they don't overlap. But you're absolutely right. In 5 gigahertz, we have channels 36. 36 and 40, they don't overlap. They're actually, as long as you're in 20 megahertz band, 20 megahertz usage. You can do channel bonding and a bunch of other stuff to take us right back to where we were. But for the time being, that's not as used, and it's not really as important because in 2.4 we really had 3.
So let's talk about this one, the device finder itself. Now, I mean, you were discussing how there's problems in the 2.4 that are pretty apparent because of the fact that they have overlapping channels. Now, this buddy, this little guy here, the device finder, my assumption is that it's going to find things that are interfering or whatever you want to find.
Yes, absolutely. For a long time we had, we have had people asking us for things like, device identification. So it's like, I want to know when my Xbox is on. And we found out that, and this is actually a removable antenna. We found out that if you can, go ahead.
That way I can
go
hold
for
it so they can see me.
So we found out that if you can use the device finder or some other tool to actually find the device, you can actually turn it over and read the serial number. You can know exactly what that device is, better than you can with it. So like, oh, this is some kind of cordless phone. And that doesn't really help. You say like, okay, well, where is it? And that's what we do here, is we try to help you find exactly where it is.
Excellent.
We've had situations where we were at a conference and suddenly we saw this very strange, kind of very solid piece of spectrum data, and we wandered around with the device finder through the whole building, and then we eventually ended out in the parking lot, and the bomb squad was outside.
You're kidding me.
No,
wow.
And so the bomb squad bot was out there, and it was just taking up a good part of the band for one of their auxiliary control channels or something like that.
Wow.
And when we went and showed them, they were not very happy with us. But it's okay. But it was good because we're just detecting that they're there. We can't demodulate anything or do anything like that to figure out what they're talking about. But it helped us to find this source of interference. It could have been anything. It could have been a video camera. It probably was a video camera. But a little different than what we normally see. But
that's pretty funny actually, because I could imagine if you were IT for that particular event and you were supposed to figure this out, you would really have no chance. You'd have a snowball's chance basically of finding it. Most likely you just say, sorry, you're just going to have to move to a different area, and hopefully another AP will have a better chance of connecting to your device.
Yeah, absolutely. Suddenly the Wi-Fi would just stop working, and then you would struggle to figure out what's going on, try to fix it for half an hour, and suddenly it's gone again. In this case, they were there for they were there to just demonstrate. They weren't actually go after a bomb, but it was a funny thing.
So I just want to show the folks at home that this actual clip here on the back looks like it's intended to clip maybe on the back of a laptop.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So what you do is the general usage is has a mini USB port on the bottom so that you can plug in the cable that goes into the laptop. And then you have you clip this onto your laptop just like this, and then you'll walk around, do all of your stuff, and
hold the laptop like
absolutely.
This.
Yeah, really it is kind of a hot-cold kind of technology.
Okay, hey, it works.
You say, is it down this hallway? No. Is it down this hallway? Yes. It's a very much a, find it out.
Yeah, go search for your metal at the beach type deal.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
All right, well, let's take a look at Chanalyzer Pro. That's the software, right?
Yeah, the software behind all of this is Chanalyzer Pro, and the data coming out of these is it's coming really fast, and we do a lot of really interesting analysis to show you what's happening.
Nice. All right, well, let's take a look.
All right, Steve. So here's Chanalyzer Pro with 2 of our DBXs installed. You see one of them is the 2.4X and one of them is the DBX. So let's first go ahead and come over here, start looking at that, and we'll switch it over to 5 gigahertz band. So what this allows you to do is this really allows you to go ahead and see what's happening in both bands through time. You can see here in the 2.4, it obviously is a lot louder. Here's 2.4, let's go ahead and change this, so look at Wi-Fi channels. We also have, 2.4 has a lot of different protocols that share that space. So one of them that we have right here is, we have Zigbee. So we can actually, you can see Zigbee channels to see if there's interference based on that.
And actually, we can just talk about that really quickly. For those who don't know, what are Zigbee channels, just so you can kind of...
So Zigbee is another protocol for, it's another IEEE protocol, IEEE protocol that is mostly for interrupts. You know, a lot of like wireless light switches and there's all kinds of like home automation.
I was just going to say home automation for turning on an outlet or whatever, something like that. Okay.
And so that was kind of a lot more spiky. It's a really kind of it's really just a spike in the band.
Single send, transmit,
pretty much.
Off.
Yeah, and that's what it is mostly used for. They do have some data, like transmission protocols in there too for it. So, but really what it's mainly for is for interrupts. But someone will yell at me for that. But that's
that's simplifying it. Just
right. It is. What we have here is this is the 2.4. This is DBX recording the 2.4 gigahertz channel, and you can see here we've got some networks here. So we have one network here that's, you know, a channel bonded network, goes from channel 1 all the way up through channel 7. And you can see, you know, there's a couple of shapes, you know, that are kind of emerging out of the mist here. And when we kind of increase the time span, you can see some very distinct shapes.
Starts to define something that looks almost plateau-ish.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So when you look at Wi-Fi, what it has is a bunch of tiny subcarriers that actually are kind of overlapped, and so they form this plateau shape. You can see it over here. You know, this is a channel bonded AND network, I believe. Yeah. And then you can see that same kind of shape kind of emerging out of the data over here as well. Chanalyzer has the most interesting feature versus Insider, you know, our other tool, is that this allows you to look at a much longer length of time, or an arbitrary length. So you can say, I want to look at 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, or 30 seconds.
However long you've been running it for.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay.
So, you know, you can see right here we have a lot of data. You can see some shapes have really started to emerge. And even just this little guy here, who probably was, you know, a keyboard in the area, like, you know, wireless keyboard, an analog keyboard.
And so essentially, when it says these shapes are starting to emerge, it's essentially SSID 0, and then SSID 3, then 2, then 0 again, right?
So when you turn these off, you really can still see. You can still see this larger shape, you know, where you have that bonded network. You can see a couple of little striations through this guy, but then you can also see in the density view, this is our density view up at the top, you can really see that there's something else here, something that really has a distinctive shape.
But over time, that would probably form into something else, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, it would just get to be more distinct. So yeah, so and you can see that that's the other, another network that has that same SSID.
Excellent.
So in this particular, just so you know, for these recordings, all the SSIDs have been changed to protect the innocent.
But essentially, they are, you know, real time. You actually went somewhere, checked out an enterprise setup.
Absolutely. This was actually one that was sent to us by a customer.
Oh, and
so a lot of these are sent to us by customers who have seen an interesting sample and they wanted to share it with us. So this is probably my favorite recording, is this video baby monitor. Video baby monitors are officially evil. When it comes to spectrum analysis, anyway.
Okay.
They use a lot of bandwidth. You know, they use a lot of the band. They are really chatty. They block just about everything else that's going on. But I'm sure that for people who use them, they are great.
If that's the only thing you use it for, it's awesome. If you want to use it for anything else on top of baby monitoring, I'm sure there's some guys out there or some kids out there with an Xbox 360 saying to themselves, why does every single time my mom turns on the baby cam, does my internet go down on my Wi-Fi?
Exactly. So you see here, I mean, this is much different than the one we were looking at before.
Right.
This has, you know, for a good portion of the band, you know, if we're looking at channels here, from all the way from channel 1 all the way through channel 9. So pretty much the whole band has been not taken up entirely. You know, there still is stuff.
You could go to channel 11. That's it.
Pretty much. Pretty much. You know, if you're in Europe, you'll be okay because you can go to channel 13. But
yeah, I mean, essentially, and that's because channel 11, it's going to go 2 to the left because it's just it's not perfect on 2.4, so it's really wide, right? And it's going to have interference 2 to the left and 2 to the right of whatever channel.
Yeah. So you can see, you know, it turns on, goes into standby, turns on again. You know, and then when you go and look at the networks in the area, this was a great example. This was a home I think like a home theater installer who had gone to a home, set up some stuff, you know, set up some of their equipment, and then had left. And when he did it, he's like, oh wow, they don't have hardly any networks nearby. They're going to be fine. And then gets called back in, a month later. The homeowner says, why did you give me this stuff? It's really bad. My Wi-Fi doesn't work at all. And comes back out with Chanalyzer and is able to see, hey, we put you on channels 1 and 6. This is probably not going to work very well. So it's, and then we can come along a little farther, right, where we see this is some Wi-Fi trying to transmit. When you look at this playback waterfall, you see this really dark band. This is Wi-Fi trying to transmit and failing. You can even go farther up here towards the end of the recording where, they're trying, but it's really going to be difficult.
And just a small explanation, the waterfall on the left here is basically all time starting at 1715 going down to 1540.
Yeah,
right?
so it's actually,
reverse,
vice versa. Yeah, so it's the beginnings at the bottom and the current or the end of the recordings at the top. Like we said before, Chanalyzer is at least partially about recording, which can be used in a lot of different ways. We have companies who are using it for training. We have companies, so you can say, hey, if you're using Chanalyzer or if you do anything like this, this is why video baby monitors, can be troublesome. So it's great for training. It's great for if you have a big staff of guys that are all going to be going out and doing wireless troubleshooting.
I want to add something else to that. Any baby monitor manufacturers that are of course also vending through us. That basically, if you were Wi-Fi certified, then you'd probably be safer. Right?
Oh yeah. Okay. Being Wi-Fi certified means being Wi-Fi certified. What it would mean is that they're actually using Wi-Fi, which is getting to be more and more common with all kinds of tools. Like video cameras and there's basically a lot of different tools that have traditionally been analog, like this one is, can be digital, and so they can be Wi-Fi. So they would appear as a Wi-Fi network. They would share nicely with other networks that are nearby. They would be a lot kinder, and for a lot of those vendors, it's also cheaper.
I remember back in the day too, all those 900 megahertz phones and everything, like, oh man, this phone sucks. Well, no, actually it's because you have all these other interference, and we just kind of understood then. But this is, if we would have had this back then, it would have been awesome. Because you could visually show people this is why it doesn't work. 900
megahertz is a really interesting use case where we used to use it a lot because it was great. It would go through it would definitely reach your whole home. It had a really great range. The problem is it would also go into your neighbor's home and his neighbor's home and down the block, because as you go down in the electromagnetic spectrum, you start to get more. Your waves are bigger and bigger and bigger, and it takes more energy.
Right.
So now with
higher frequency is just it bounces off stuff a lot faster, right? It doesn't have the kind of the force needed to go through objects.
Absolutely. Kind of the way it gets truncated. So you imagine like if you have a electromagnetic wave that's 2 stories tall, it hits a tree and it'll keep going.
So we're talking about like AM radio at that point.
Exactly. And so, but when you have, when you see ththose people, like the ham radio operators, they have some, ginormous antenna in the front yard because they're trying to catch big waves. They're surfers, really. But no, so they're so in any case, we're trying to deal with smaller waves, which get blocked by walls and doors and trees and stuff like that. So as you move up in the band up to 5 gigahertz, it's not going to leave your home, which is some people call it a security feature, where they're like, hey, I'm not broadcasting my phone conversations into my neighbor's house, but also it's nice because you just don't have to deal with all these people, all these devices that can see each other, that are in the same, we call it a contention domain.
Much easier.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's another situation you came across?
So yeah, I'll show you what's actually a really great use of the device finder. So when we open this up, this was another home theater installer that was a very similar situation as the baby monitor. But this was a user in a row home. It was a bunch of houses right next to each other, and the guy, the first thing that the installer did was come in and tell the homeowner, what did you add? Like, what did you buy?
Tell me immediately.
You went to Newegg and bought something fancy, didn't you?
Was it a baby monitor? No.
Yeah, but no, and the homeowner said, no, I wouldn't do that. I would call you first, like, I wouldn't do it. And the homeowner...
People slave to their IT people. I was such a Nazi when I was IT, because I'm like, what are you doing? You need to have like 15-character alphanumeric passwords with symbols. And
everyone's terrified, So, but this homeowner was like, he said, I know. He He swore up and down, I didn't buy anything, I didn't add anything. And so then the install, this was what the environment looked like when the installer left the first time. So when we look at the network, this was actually, I think it was.
That's the beauty of this too, because essentially if you do product and you do talk to an owner, and this has happened to me time and time again, if you talk to somebody and you tell them, hey, when I was here everything worked, you know it worked and you can show them how it was working, then you have the recording when you come back and troubleshoot it. Look, it's still the same, so whatever happened before isn't happening now. Call me again, I guess, or I can leave something here running, something like that.
Absolutely. We actually have a lot of installers that call it the birth certificate of the network. They like to take a recording, when they leave. When they've left, they said, hey, everything was set up right, I did a throughput test and that worked, I did a spectrum analysis capture and I kept that and that was fine. And and now you can start to see in this recording, as it starts to play, you start to see some little troubles, right? I think that little blips. I think that this guy this installer had put them on, channel 1. I can't remember which network it is.
Can you flip the channel view? Because I recognize the channel view better than.
Yeah. Sorry. Oh, you're talking about the frequency view, of course.
Because the frequencies I'm not that hip to.
No,
look, channel 1, because it says 1.
So I think this particular homeowner was on channel 1, and you can see it starts to get a little. This is as the installer is going back through the home to try to find this problem with the device finder. He starts to see a picture emerge as he walks towards the back of the home. We'll fast forward a little bit, and you'll see that this gets a little bit lamer.
That's a big jump.
So it looks like this big nasty spider of something.
That's that same zigzag as a baby monitor too, right?
It's same zigzag.
Actually, it's still bowed.
Yeah, it's still bowed. This actually, we'll talk about what this is in a second, but and you see these are the homeowners networks actually on channel 3, which is not right, but.
We'll let it slide.
We'll let it slide this time because the guy found out what he needed. So he's in the back of the home now and near the access point. He says, "What is this thing?" And he turns to the homeowner again and says, "What did you buy?" And it's the same rigmarole as before. And then he turns to one of the walls. As you can see in this capture right at the end here, with this nice big red spot, right here. And that was when he turned to one of the exterior walls, towards one of the neighbors, and he said, "Oh, the neighbor bought something." So in this case, this was a wireless speaker setup. I can't remember which brand, but it was it was a Soundelier. It says right here, and not to say that they're bad. It just doesn't share channel 1 very well. So this was a great example where this wasn't the homeowner's fault. This wasn't the installer's fault. Nope. It wasn't even really the neighbor's fault. Really, I mean the neighbor can buy whatever.
It was flawless, of course.
Yeah, and so but what we can do here is we can help the homeowner know what happened. We can help the installer look credible, and we can help the whole 3 kind of people here figure out.
We can help the world.
We can help the world, the whole world.
Don't even stop at these 2-3 people setup. You can help the entire universe with this.
Yeah, and so it's you just can try to figure out what the problem is, what the problem really is in this invisible medium, and either move the access point or move the Soundelier or move whatever. Like I said, I mean the Soundelier it's not the Soundelier's fault. It's nobody's fault. We just have to manage the spectrum.
Here's what you do. You set up a dish, you point it directly at his house, and you just spam every channel possible and just knock his whole wireless out. Don't do that, I'm kidding.
No, just kidding, yeah. We actually have quite a bit of...
That's wireless wars, man. In college, getting my...
You'd be surprised. We have there's a lot of tools out there. There are a lot of totally not legal tools. They're all about sound testers and things like that, where you can, just spam
use the same... Okay, I'm not gonna empower people to do this. I'm sorry. I just naturally, as soon as you say something, my mind just goes, oh, because of this, and I do not want to do that.
So, but anyway, it's just a funny thing, we just have to manage the air because especially in this, just like you deal with sound, when you're in a home. You play a movie too loud, and you're going to bother the neighbors late at night. You play, you have flashing lights in your home, you're going to bother somebody.
Something's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but this is the coolest way to do it, though, because honestly, you could have knocked on people's door and asked them legitimately, what did you buy recently, right? I mean, you can't. Unless you were like really cool with them and you drop off a 6-pack. But still, the bottom line is they're not going to want to give that information up. And to be honest, they shouldn't. But this program and this hardware can really help you because this device finder is just awesome. I mean, I can imagine several times this would have saved me a lot of trouble. And in my neighborhood, no one's really going to want to stop doing what they're doing, but really it just empowers me to say, all right, cool, at least I know what I need to do in order to help this. Like you can lower the output power, right, so this way it's not able to even see that other device and thus not affect it.
Yeah. Or, I mean, you can decide, hey, and then in this example, and this, you know, when you look at the other networks, there's a lot of networks around channel 9, channel 11, but, you know, with the sound delay there, you say, okay, that's fine, but because they're not using these, you know, they're just kind of there.
Just switch the channel.
Just switch it to channel 11, and that was I believe that was the solution that was eventually, you know, come to by the installer.
Okay.
And it resolved the problem, and everyone looks good.
And if you look at this too here, SSID 0 guest and 0, basically they are on channel 11, and basically you could, everybody can still talk to each other. I mean, the HHP, each AP, each client, each router, yeah, everybody can work together on that. And that's just a misconception, as you pointed out earlier, that a lot of people miss out on is just stick to channels 1, 6, and 11 on 2.4, and you're good to go. 5, you don't have to worry about it that much because there's no overlap. But really, that's the most important thing to remember because they're going to work together.
Yeah. And so as a wireless, you know, anyone who's listening to this as a wireless technician, you know, someone has to work with wireless. We have webinars. I'll keep repeating that. We have webinars. We have newsletters. We have all kinds of resources for you to learn, you know, how to do your job, you know, how to get Wi-Fi to be awesome. Nice. All of your, you know, it should be invisible. It should be something that just works. It should, your customers should never have to worry about it. They just get to use whatever device they want, and it's great. One thing with Device Finder, we can show really quickly the actual Device Finder in action.
Okay.
Once you have the Device Finder turned on, you can turn on, so it has instructions here on how to go ahead and turn it all on. Select Device Finder from the context menu. So you can come in here and say, I really like this little guy right here. I would like to find out what's going on with this. You go to Device Finder, and that will actually graph over time the signal strength of what you're looking at. So you can see right now it's trying to build a graph. You know, it's going to go up and down as all Wi-Fi. You know, wireless is kind of a wibbly wobbly Wi-Fi thing.
Timey-wimey?
Timey-wimey, yeah. So you can see it goes all the way down to -98, which is really quite soft, all the way up to -58. So you know, as this is a wireless network here that we're detecting, and so it's going to have packets that are coming through, and it's going to go up and down.
And showing us that bell curve you mentioned before, I can see bell curve starting to show up here. And just because I already know what's in the network, I knew what channels to look at too, but
that comes with experience.
Right.
And we try to, you know, a lot of the people who use Chanalyzer, they're wireless professionals. That's what they do, you know, and so we try to give them tools so that they can see exactly what's happening all the time. And so let's just imagine that, you know, like I said, this is a very nice environment. I don't have to do a lot to show this, but we have, you know, it goes up and down, and you can do that. You can basically say, you point it at the source that you don't know where it is, and it'll go up. You point it away from the source, and that amplitude will go down. You can do that throughout the home. You can triangulate. You can do whatever it takes. You know, we once found like a wireless transmitter on top of a building. You know, we had to point it up to find it. So, you know, this is essentially you just can walk around, keep wandering until you find the right tool. So if we turn this around, I'm not sure whether or not we'll actually be able to see a real difference.
So the idea is here, the signal strength either is going to go up or down depending on if it's in the direction of that thing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so you'll see a trend start to emerge. And yeah, so that's right now. So far, it's been quite a bit lower. Oh, there's a little bit higher, but yeah. Oh, well, there we go. This is wireless. And actually, this brings up a great point. How sometimes happen is you have the access point that's sending packets, and then you also have the client that's sending packets.
Right.
So we've had some interesting things where we're chasing down something that looks like it's in two places because it is. So, but by and large, I mean, you can see the general trend is a little lower.
So we're looking at the peaks here.
Right.
Is that what we're doing? And then we're looking at the lows here. So right about here is when you turned it. And so peaks, lows, and across the board, they seem to be both lower than the others. Not by much, but they do look
and
lower.
during you know, a lot of sources, this is a Wi-Fi source. This is a really particular kind of, but if you had an analog source like a video camera or something like that, it would be a very high amplitude, and you'd be able to see the change very quickly.
Immediately.
Yeah, immediately. Totally. So yeah, that's pretty much how the Device Finder works. And you just clip it onto the back, and it goes
wherever you go.
Yeah.
And then you just point it in the direction you want to go. Awesome. Okay. Anything else about this software you want to show us? Well,
you know, we do have, like I said, it takes an external. If you have a Mac like I do, it takes an external. You know, would take VMware or something like that.
Because essentially it needs to be on Windows.
It needs to be on Windows. We do, yeah. So, and then we have the WiSpy. We have an external wireless NIC, and that's what the hardware that's needed. We also have signatures in here that are, we can, if it's something that matches one of the types of transmitters that we've seen.
So this is interesting actually, because the bell curve you mentioned before, this is it, right? This is the 802.11b and G networks will have that bell. Bluetooth has this sort of spike to 0 to spike again.
Yeah.
And probably anybody out there who is familiar with RF are probably going to recognize some of these, am I right?
Absolutely. So one of the things you can do here is you can actually, you see this shape, and you're like, I don't know what that is. That looks kind of familiar, if you didn't know, if you didn't already know. But you can basically click on one of these and bring it up, and then you can kind of say, yeah, is that match? That matches pretty well. You can bring it over here and say, yeah, that matches all right too. It has this little divot in the top. And in our other example, we showed the full 40 megahertz bonded.
The N?
Yeah, the N bonded network. You can see that as well. You see that's pretty big. And that matches with what we saw before.
Yeah, earlier when we had the flat top across the plateau.
Yeah, and then Bluetooth. Bluetooth is a pretty chatty guy. So Bluetooth is, there's 79 channels that it hops around on. So it goes all over the place.
Nice.
So yeah, so that is a way for you to, do automatic classification to let you do it yourself, or just pop up and say, hey, we found a video camera and stuff like that. But if you want to try to match it yourself, you can. Okay,
because there might be a situation where maybe the signal's kind of weak, or there's a little bit more RF interference, or two things, right? Maybe interfering with one another. Maybe you see a plateau and spikes, and you realize maybe it is the 40 megahertz range and the N, and then the Bluetooth on top of that. So I can see we're actually looking at live different radios in the room right now.
Absolutely.
This is all of our current SSIDs, right?
Yep, we're in the Newegg office, and so all of them are, Newegg something, Newegg TV, which is the network that we'd be on right now. So you can see the vendor, what kind of infrastructure it is. I'm not even sure. So we don't even show that we don't even have the vendor for the normal Newegg stuff.
It's hidden. We format it. We have our own firmware. It's very
very posh.
Yes, I was just gonna say posh.
So anyway, so what you can do if you see a bunch of networks in your area, what you can actually do is you can select this one. And you can do kind of what we do with the device finder, but with beacons. Like I was saying before, that was actually in our other video. Networks always are transmitting their, kind of their information. They have like this whole, I'm a nice network. You probably want to join me because I'm super awesome and I do these things.
Here's my SSID. Here's what my encryption is.
Right. Here's my speeds. And so what we have here is we can graph the signal strength that we received all those beacons over time, and see, because we're sitting still right now, this one is pretty much steady. So you can see if you go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to cover up the antenna, or actually we can go ahead and remove them.
Yeah, that'd be easier.
Yeah, I wouldn't have any.
I was going to say any aluminum foil, but then I realized that doesn't always help either. Depending.
So you can see right away the signal strength goes way down for this, and that's because we took away the antenna.
Right.
But as you walk around, you'd be able to find, if you want to do a device finder with something like Wi-Fi, you can see hot, cold, kind of.
Okay.
What we're trying to do here is really, because we're standing still, they should stay steady, because our relationship to the access point will stay exactly the same.
Did change slightly right when you picked it up. Probably your body became like an antenna for a second.
Well, we are kind of interested. A lot of RF engineers call people bags of water, because we are actually really great at interrupting wireless signals.
Oh, okay.
So you'll find, like, when you stand in front of the TV and you finally get it to work and then you walk away and it goes away again. If you have like the old rabbit ears or something crazy. Yeah. When we had, when we had analog TV.
So somehow we're shaping it to hit the antenna a little bit better because we were in the way of the signal.
Yeah, it's all a bunch of RF black magic.
Nice.
So, but as without antennas, it's as if we were much farther away, because the antennas have a certain amount of gain, and the signal strength of that access point goes down. So the same thing we did with the device finder, we can also do with just wireless data, to try to find out where in the home a certain wireless card is, or wireless access point is.
Okay.
Or if your neighbors are there or whatever. So that's pretty much the best. Those are the two best ways to find devices. With the device finder for more analog, a lot more steady state kind of devices, and then for finding wireless access points and where they are in relation to you, using the network graph can really be helpful.
Nice, excellent.
Yeah. So we have all kinds of other tools, but we we can, those are covered in webinars and all kinds of other places. So we can, you can discover way more on our website, metageek.net. We like I said before, we have webinars, which are always fun. Joel would love to have you.
Oh, awesome! I would love to jump in there and talk to you guys. That'd be a lot of fun. Yeah. Let me know what's happening. I would definitely enjoy that.
So that's pretty much Chanalyzer. Chanalyzer's it's a fun tool. It's a fun tool to work on. I'm one of the software engineers, and so it's been fun to build. We love the fact that we get to help people solve problems.
Yeah, you guys did an awesome job with this. I mean, this is so much more than what obviously the normal user out there would use, but someone that's a network admin or someone that deals with home users and installations for those users in a business capacity, you're definitely going to need something like this, or at least I could see how easy it would be to solve so many problems that you might just be otherwise just hitting your head with it.
Yeah.
So
we have in a lot of bigger companies, we'll have someone who is the Wi-Fi guy. If you're on a campus, you have a hospital or a university campus, you have the Wi-Fi guy. And that Wi-Fi guy, really, I would say needs a tool like this, if not this. It's something to help find that last, that nagging issue that says in the corner of this building, no one can use the Wi-Fi.
Uncover that rock of whatever Wi-Fi mud that's covering the issue. Yeah, exactly. All right, Chris, well, thank you so much for stopping in. I mean, you're always so educational, and you actually enlightened me a lot of my Wi-Fi knowledge as well, so I want to thank you for that as well.
Absolutely, Steve.
And so if anybody wants to watch or learn more about Wi-Fi, they can always go to Metageek's website, metageek.net, is that right?
Absolutely.
Excellent. All right, you guys. Thanks so much for watching. We really appreciate it. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to click the like button. If you haven't already done so, click subscribe, and we'll see you guys soon.